What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Struggle to Strength podcast, your source for life application on how to turn your struggles into strengths in all things mind, muscle, and money. I am your host, Josh Levine. I am joined here by my longtime friend and my co-host, Travis Hatch. And today we have Vernon Brown, one of the top happiness coaches in America and creator of the Own Your Happi movement to encourage others to live happier, healthier, and more fulfilled lives. Y'all, we had an absolutely phenomenal conversation here. We talked about everything from the 3 ways you can find your happiness to getting unstuck, and also how to find your superpower. So I highly recommend y'all stay tuned. It's going to be a great episode. Before we get into it, we ask that if you love this episode, please give us 5 stars on Apple or a follow on Spotify. Share us on your socials. You can find me at Josh Levine Fitness. You can find Travis at Travis Hawks Media. Links are in the show notes. And you can also find the podcast on Instagram at Struggle to Strength Pod. We would really appreciate it if you guys go check that out, share some clips. We love to interact with y'all. So that's it. I know you guys are going to enjoy this one. We absolutely did. We will see you inside. I guess to kind of jump into things, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. You're a happiness coach, and I think people probably have questions about like what that is and how you got into it. But I'd really love to hear your story, man.
Yeah. I'm all about that. Like, what I do is cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm not ever trying to diminish that, but I think it's important, especially with like what you all talk about, struggle to strength. And it's, I don't know, it's not about necessarily me. It's just kind of my experience, right? Because everyone's got a struggle. Everyone does. A lot of times, some people don't recognize that's where you find your superpower at.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I 100% believe that. I think the ability to get through hard times, the ability to develop resilience, because resilience is developed. It's very rarely given.
Yep.
But yeah, you really can find a superpower. We've talked about there's almost a superpower that you receive from hitting rock bottom and surviving and coming out better on the other side. There's almost a superpower that we have from our flaws, like a Joe Rogan perspective where his mental illness is his superpower.
Yep.
And so I think if we learn how to kind of spin things and see the positives that can come out of potentially inherently negative situations, then we can be a lot better off. And so do you help people learn how to do that?
Yeah, it's yes is a short answer. The long answer, I guess, got a bit more expansive. It's recognizing, kind of using what you're saying about Joe Rogan. It's what someone might perceive as necessarily an illness, a flaw, a problem, or whatever. That's just in that particular environment, right? Because if you take that same skill set and maybe move it over to another place, all of a sudden it's like a superpower. All of a sudden it's like an advantage that you have. So, many times I work with persons and they'll feel as, they can't control themselves. They might say they might be so impulsive, it's not getting them to a certain place. They might recognize that maybe they have a quick temper. They might recognize that, maybe they might not even speak up when they need to. And so, or when they feel as they need to. It's about recognizing like, you might not be with the right people, and when people start recognizing like, I'm just in the wrong environment. Or maybe I need to be around different people. Maybe this career isn't best suited for me. All of a sudden they recognize I can actually leverage this. So that is, kind of the part 2 of that. And then I think the third way of answering that is recognizing that sometimes that superpower, you don't need it anymore. It's not necessary. It's not conducive. It's not conducting like a positive result in that environment. Like if it's, let's just say you're a person that's very analytical, it works great if you're an accountant, if you're like a biologist, a physiologist, things like that. But when it comes to, hey, it's just this, it's nothing more, nothing less. It's like, oh, well, I guess I don't need that. Like, you might need it, but just not as much. So it's getting about awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you seem very intuitive and very emotionally intelligent. Like you spent a lot of time working on this yourself. How did you get into understanding this about you, and what made you want to teach it to other people? I think that's what a lot of us do. Travis just now was like, hey, you like the way my video looks. I want to teach you. We learn cool things about ourselves, about things that we're passionate about. We want to pass them on to others. That's why I'm in health and fitness. What made you want to do this for other people?
It's kind of like what you both, have. I'm a natural giver. And I'm not saying it to brag, but it's like, Travis said, oh man, let's talk about this after. I did this. It's not like I got it. I keep it to myself. It's like, dude, I got this. Let's see what this can do. Like, oh, I got the lights. And like, That kind of came one, I think, I know, like in my family, it's like about being a helper, where we're big helpers. Raised by my mom's are a nurse, my grandmother's a nurse, my aunt's a nurse. Everybody's in a big helping profession, right? Like, in other words, if there's danger, it's not like run. It's like there's danger. Like, all right, so get a bag, get the gauze, or get this, get that. Let's see what they need. And so I was just raised in this environment that if you can, you do. And so it's like when I was younger, I didn't recognize like a lot of things about me, like you mentioned, like the intuition. I mean, I'm glad you're very perceptive of you. It just, I thought it was normal because I was in my head, right? And because I would see things in my head, or I would not like see things, but you know what I mean? Like, oh, all they need is this. I could interject myself here and help them, or they'd be better off if they maybe went right versus left. I thought it was normal until I got older. I recognized that it wasn't. But it also came with a lot of, I would say, like kind of suppression, because when you're intuitive, you see things and you're like, is everyone else seeing this? And you might say it, and some people are like, you're making that up, or how do you know that, or you're crazy. And so eventually you learn, over time, you eventually learn not to say anything, right? Because who wants to look like a fool? Who wants to get to a conclusion that no one else can see? Because there's not many people who can like, and not, bragging, but I'm just saying intuitive people, my people are always like, I know things, but I can't explain how I know them. And if you don't have a way that you got to X, people feel like, well, if you can't show your equation like a mathematics problem, then you got wrong, then it's wrong, but that's not the case. So I just learned to be really quiet until I got older. And I was thinking like, what are some different ways? And at the time I didn't realize like intuition was a big deal. I just thought it was normal because again, I thought it was me. And I was like, well, what can I do with this? And it was like, what's the best way I can help people? And I said, I'll be a bartender. Right? Because it's like when you're a bartender, it's not necessarily how fast you can make a drink. It's about, can you connect with people and almost articulate things better than what they can even articulate them like a need. But as I started like progressing in that, and it wasn't me, it was just that people realized they felt and they felt seen. I started like, hey, what's the way that I can kind of teach this to people in a positive way? Not to show them manipulate, but to show that one, your thoughts and what you feel matter, but two, you don't have to hide it. And it's kind of a gift, because some people can look at it as something that's persecuting them or something that's making them almost a martyr. When they recognize like, wow, this really is a power, they start recognizing that this is like a big privilege. And it's like, it's part of your moral compass, and that's all right to share that with people in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. And so you're teaching people how to become more intuitive, but you also kind of can see, you can see their, you can see what the future could hold for them if they learn certain things about themselves, and you just want to bring that out of them. Is that fair to say?
As long as it's part of what they want, right? Because like my practice is what's your happy, not my happy, not Travis's happy, it's, or your mom or your dad, your cousin, aunt's happy. It's your happy. If that's something that works for you and that's what you want, I'm happy to pursue that with you. I'm not going to tell you how to live, because it's not, that's not my job. But as long as a person's recognizing what path that they're on is not giving them what they want, and they're open to pursuing a different path, that's where I kind of fit in. Not to say that I won't point out some things, but again, I won't tell you. I might mention, do you mind if I point something out? People are like, well, sure. If you continue down this path, what typically I've seen, it kind of gets to here. Is that something that you want to, do you want that? And they're like, oh, no, I don't want that. Well, how about we look at some other options for you?
Mm-hmm. I'm curious because we're talking a lot about happiness, and I've thought a lot about that word, like happiness, like what that means, like what that even is. Like sometimes I felt like for me, it's not even the best description of what I'm looking for versus like, I guess like excitement, stimulation, satisfaction, like pride. I don't know. I felt a lot about that. So I'm curious, because you're a happiness coach. To you, what is happiness? Like what actually is happiness?
That's what the number 2 question I get asked. And you know what I mean? But it's amalgam of what you just said. It can be many things. It can equate to many things. I think for me, the core of it is energy, because what makes me happy probably won't make you happy, probably won't make Josh happy, but it makes me happy. But out of that, it brings me joy, it brings me satisfaction, it brings me, a different perspective, it brings me understanding, and that energizes you because that's your happy, and everyone's different. Because if you don't figure out what makes you happy, you're going to be looking for it, whether you're conscious of it or not. because, people chase things. Oh, I want to make so much money. They make so much money. Then they're like, well, this is what I want. Oh, I want to get the girl or get the guy. They go at that person, go out there and try to get X result. They get that. They're like, oh, well, this doesn't make me happy. But it's kind of when you get in contact and get connected with the true self, and you really sit back about what energizes you. One of my happies, and I'm, letting people know is I love traveling. That's, a lot of people say that, but for me, it's not just traveling, going to like North Dakota, but it's the grocery stores. I love going to different grocery stores. It sounds silly to some people, but that's my happy. I love to cook. So to see these different ingredients, it's like, oh, I can make this for my son. Oh, we can try this. Oh, we can make that. That's my happy. So it's that energy that you get finding whatever it is that you like, but be curious about what makes you happy, because what makes you happy can change over time, right? When I was younger, I loved playing with Legos. Do I like playing with Legos now? Sure. Do I love it? Not quite so much. It's changed. And so for me, happiness it's energy.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a valuable exercise, and to be consistent, continue to be aware and assess what it is that makes you happy. I think that for most people, if you continue to ask them why they do certain things that maybe they like doing, and, continue to ask why and why and why and over and over and over again, I feel like most of the time the answer is ultimately going to be because it makes them happy, or because it gives them confidence, or with anything that they enjoy doing. You continue to ask, whether it's, I want to make a lot of money. Well, why do you want to make a lot of money? Because I want to be able to buy nice things and support my family. Well, why do you want to be able to buy nice things and support your family? Continue to go over and over and over again. I feel like eventually the answer is going to be because it makes me happy. So on the way to, in my brain, what I'm thinking is like, on the way to continue, while you're continuing to ask why about all these things, I think all of those things also make you happy. So it's not just money. Right. It's being able to buy nice things. It's being able to go travel and go on vacations. It's being able to provide for your family. Like, all of those things are what make you happy. Is that how that exercise kind of goes?
Well, for me, it's a little what you said. I'm very cautious with the why questions, because it can be a little bit reductionistic. And I'm not pushing back. I'm just going to keep sharing my perspective, because there's many times you might never ever get to the true why, because the why can take from me and the way I do things, the why can take us away from what we really need to be doing. For me, it's the goal behind the goal behind the goal. I want to make a lot of money, and okay, so with you making a lot of money, what's going to change about your life? Well, then me and my family can go do more these bigger, better things, and, buy a bigger house. Okay, with a bigger, better house, buy more things and doing new things. What is that going to change about your life? Well, then it can provide more. I'm like, so what if you were able to make a lot of money? We can start, increasing the amount of money that you make, and you can still do those things. Like, oh my gosh, I would love that. And for me, it's like, a lot of times we feel like it's this one specific thing. And that's why I'm really careful about why questions, because sometimes it doesn't change what we need to do. We just want to make sure that you can give your family great experiences, feel a sense of satisfaction for yourself, and sometimes you think it's because you don't have enough money. And sometimes I'm sure we all can agree, once you start making more money, that doesn't mean you have more free time. Sometimes it can mean you have less free time, right? So it's just like, all right, so if we were able to leverage your time better right now, and you can do all these things, you might not make as much money as you think you need, but you can still do these things and actually free you up. Would that be something you're interested in? I'm like, well, yeah. Like, all right, well, let's do that then.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And especially when it comes to time, I think a lot of people, and you're right, I understand your perspective. I think a lot of people might start chasing what they believe is going to be the catalyst for change in their life. Yep. And really it ends up holding them back. And money is a perfect example. People think that money is going to truly change their life. And really they're just trading time for more money. And now they don't have the time to enjoy the things that they wanted to do with the money. And so, how do we really, the question, it's almost like, how do we make more money and win back time? And right. If we can have both, or what do we truly want?
Like years ago, I remember I was on this, I gotta chase money. I was chasing, right? And I was so excited I had a lot more money, but we know about money, it never ends. So as much as you get like $5,000, $8,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, like feels great to have that in your bank account and you're looking at things, but it's just like, it's never enough. It's never. Mm-hmm. And I remember I was working like a madman. And like you said, I can't tell you what I did with my time then, because all I was doing was working, right?
Yep.
And it's like, and this is before my son, but now like my son, again, he's 6, soon to be 7 in a few months, but it's like, I look at time really differently now. And it made me really appreciate, if I could do everything I want to do and still have way more time, would I do it? I'm like, absolutely. And it's just like makes you work more efficiently. And it's just like, for me, I'm not going to say money is the root of all evil, but it's like really recognizing, are you truly leveraging your time right now the best you could?
Yeah, no amount of money could buy you to redo like your son's first birthday. No,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? That's impossible. So there is kind of like a threshold. And I also think like a lot of people think that money is going to solve like all their problems, but in reality, you never can solve all your problems. All you do is trade problems, because the problem of like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent this month. That is a problem. That
Absolutely.
sucks. And maybe that's the worst problem. Maybe that's a worse problem. But the problem of like, oh my God, what do I do with this account with 100 grand in it because the economy might crash? Where do I move it? That's also a fucking problem. And that also takes a lot of time. It sucks. And like, it's stressful. It's not even necessarily like, I don't know which one's worse, honestly. Like, they both feel, I think probably the not knowing how to pay your rent is probably bad, but they're both, all you'd ever do is you have to like pick what problems you're going to have. And then obviously money gives you the opportunity to buy back time and buy things that make you happy. But
but it's, you hit like on such a key thing. It's like you said, you don't really, problems are forever. Okay. When I say problem, all I mean is a surprise. It's something that you didn't expect. That's how I look at problems, because we can predict, oh, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have a cup of coffee. I'm going to, kiss the sky. I'm going to be, rubbing deers in the woods. And all of a sudden a swamp monster comes out. That's a problem. You didn't expect it. Right. And I don't care how much money you make, you're not exempt from life. And that's all that is. And don't get me wrong, I remember the days when I was struggling to pay rent. I remember the days when we were homeless. I remember the days when, money would just make things so right. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say money doesn't relieve you of some stressors, but you never really escape life. No one is exempt from it. But, you start making a lot of money. And I've seen so many persons like this. It's like, using what you said, Travis, someone to have, a few accounts, many accounts. I think, a few clients I've had, and, very affluent. And when you start recognizing, can I trust the people that I have in my life? Would they still want me and want to be around me if I wasn't successful as I was? I mean, that creates a completely different place you don't want to be. And it's just one of those things. And I've had one of my clients, she was being told that, the only reason why she has friends is because she buys them. Like just picture like the ambivalence that can create in a person. So I'm saying like money doesn't mean that you are exempt from life. That does not mean that. It doesn't. Yeah.
And I think like a couple things we touched on is like time, when you become like, time and health are like the two big ones that I think of that that like money can't fix. And I mean, it can help you fix them, but it doesn't fix it. And success and all of that. So like, if you achieve everything you want financially, you have all this success. Like, I think like understanding that you can't drop a good analogy I heard is like, life is like juggling 4 different balls. One of them is your profession. One of them is your health. One of them is your family. One of them is your integrity. And then you can like really start living your life when you realize that your professional ball is made of rubber and the others are made of glass. And if you drop your health ball, for instance, it might get scratched or even shatter into pieces, versus if you drop your professional ball, it's going to bounce back. And so I thought that was a good analogy to kind of like have in the back of your mind because like a lot of people just think like, fuck it, no friends, no this. I like, all I'm going to do is just grind. And along the way, it's like, yeah, but what if you get heart disease from not sleeping and all this stress? Right. First of all, you can't work anymore. And now you're just sick and you can't enjoy any of the shit that you have, and same if you lose your family and your friends and all of this shit, like you can't buy that stuff back. And especially if, I don't have kids or anything, but if you do, like, that's gotta be the number one thing, because, when they're grown up, like you can't buy that back. So, I don't know. I try to think about that. What are some, like, what are some common things that you see? Cause everybody thinks like, oh, I'll just go like success, and then everything will be fine. What are some common things that you see, kind of go wrong with success almost?
What you just said speaks to me on such a visceral level. And, it's one of the common things because it's happened to me. I'm chasing success. I'm out there and, this is many years ago. And this was in another career and not trying to drop information, but just kind of sharing a little bit more about me. It's like at this one point in my life, I wanted to be mega successful. I wanted to be known, right? It was just like this big thing. I went from 20 years not being known. Nobody knew who I was. I wanted to make something out of myself in like such a big, a big print way, a big entertainment way. And so I was like really big in the world of modeling and acting, right? And I'm hustling, I'm grinding, like you were saying. And I mean, when I got kind of done with it, it took about 3 years. I got kind of full of it. It was on my birthday and I'm thinking I'm having fun and I'm pursuing, I got back to, Richmond, pursuing things and we're on the go-karts. And all of a sudden I'm like, I can't breathe. I'm like, what is going on? I've always been active since I've been 18. And all of a sudden they were like, you need to get to the hospital. When I went to like one of those urgent cares, I'm like, okay. I'm like, for what? And, I'm like, I can run a mile in 6 minutes. What do I need to go to urgent care for? Right. And they said, your blood pressure is really high. I'm like, what? And I went to the hospital. They said to me, you need to go to the emergency room now. Go to the emergency room. And they said, Vernon, are you aware that you have pneumonia? And I'm like, what? It's like, you have walking pneumonia. And I'm thinking, going back, I'm like, well, I haven't been able to breathe and take deep breaths. I didn't think anything of it, right? Because again, I'm grinding, I'm hustling, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, doing this. And I'm thinking I'm taking care of my health because I'm going to the gym and, I'm exercising, I'm eating all those things, but I wasn't sleeping properly. I wasn't taking care of Vernon. When then I think the big wallop was the doctor comes in and she just like stared at me for a minute and looked at me and she said, how do you feel? And I said, I guess I feel fine. I was like, why? She said, Vernon, you're about to have a life-altering stroke. And I said, what? And of course, like my blood pressure starts going up. It was like 195 over like 200, something insane. And that's when I found out that I had high blood pressure. And it was one of those things, like you were saying, I don't care how much money I had, how many, magazine covers I got, how many this I got, you can't get that back, because money can't fix that. And it like, that was a big Godsmack, if you will. And I think my mom said it best. One of her sayings is, what Mother Nature can't fix, Father Time will. And that really made me really adjust how I grind and how I pursue time. And I think another thing I see, because you get the reality check about health, is you really start recognizing how important it is to have someone to talk to. So while you're pursuing things, it's so important to be able to have, even if it's that one or two, and it's been proven time and time again, you only need one or two people throughout your life that can kind of keep you grounded and keep you not humble, but keep you, relating to your core values. So I've seen so many people, dismiss that and also kind of ignore it until it's a point where it's almost irreparable, because people move on and people kind of take, they take leave out of your life and you might become a certain way. And I think another thing, as I see when people are pursuing success, is the health. It's the ignoring friends and loved ones. But it's what you said about that ball being in the air, being able to look yourself in the mirror. It's something I've seen so many people, and I'm not judging
integrity.
Integrity. When you can't look yourself in the mirror, and I mean, really look at yourself and say, who am I? Am I congruent with how I feel and how I perceive the world? And are my actions showing that? That really can cause a certain level of dissonance in a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that especially when people are really hungry for success, I think it can for sure change your outlook on the world and on your life, and you get a little bit tunnel vision. Personally, I think that it's really valuable to have some sort of mentor, or like you said, someone to talk to.
Yes.
Not only because it's going to help you get to where you want to be faster, more effectively, and with less pain, but because if you have a mentor that you really trust, that you can talk to, who knows you, they also know you, they're going to help keep you in check as well. They're going to, like you said, they're going to know to ask the right questions if you're blinded to them. Because if you're just chasing success and you're trying to battle, time, money, and health, you're going to pay for it in one way or another.
Yes. Look at so many successful people, like, looking at Hollywood, looking at the entertainment industry. Sure, there are some people who one minute you're hot, one minute you're not, but really look at the people that if they had some better persons in their corner, or maybe that mentor, maybe that person who give that kind of like that guidance. And not that they're telling them what to do, but say, just think about it. If you're about to make a bad decision, someone says, is this how you want things? Is this how you want to be remembered? For someone just to wake you up with a question like that, like, well, no, like, so what are some other options here? Like, think about how powerful that could be for anybody, even for somebody being in control of your finances, someone being in control in some of the decisions that you make that might show you in a flamboyant way that sure gets a lot of attention, but is it congruent with who you are? So, I mean, I think I really value on an incredibly high level, as far as top 3 priorities, is my circle. Your circle is everything. Everything. Because, people say it takes a village to raise a child. And I let people know that we're all children. So many things we learned when we were children, we need as adults. Take naps, have structure, eat a healthy diet, make sure you exercise, laugh. So essentially, we all need that kind of guidance. We all need it.
Yeah, and that circle is really important. And it can help you or hurt you. Your circle can help you or hurt you. So you have to really pay very close attention to who's in it. And as you were speaking, I was thinking of, the guidance that we receive from other people. We also receive guidance from ourselves and the decisions that we make if we're paying a close enough attention. And I was thinking of, we had one of my friends, Nick Ross, on our podcast, and he had a life-changing moment where he found out that he had testicular cancer and he should have died. And he had he completely changed his life because he was given a second chance. And in the same way that we pay attention to things that happen to us because things happen for us, the same way we pay attention to things that happen for us and they can give us feedback. I think you're right. A quality mentor and your circle can also give you feedback. So granted, we may not be able to help the things that happen for us health-wise. We may not be able to help the fact that we are diagnosed with some terrible disease or cancer or something like that. But the same way that we learn from those experiences, we can also learn from paying attention to the people that are around us that care about us, who know what we want out of life and who are able to provide us feedback and not wait for a rock bottom moment, not wait for us to really fuck up, but to actually have our back the entire time. And if you don't have those people in your life, or if you're not happy with those people in your life, then you can change that. You can change that really quickly. You just need to start looking for the people that you want in your life. And I'm sure when people join you, they meet your people, and they start to potentially improve those that are around them. Do you see that happen?
I do. And it's, I want to definitely make a distinction about a mentor or just somebody, a confidant, somebody that you have. They are not going to always say the things you want to hear. They're going to tell you the things you need to hear. I've got a couple of, buddies in my life, and one we talk every day. He has said some shiza to me that I swear if he was in front of me, I would have drop kicked him. I swear on my life. I'm like, who does he think he is? I remember one particular point in my life, it was, money was tight. I was freaking out. And I'm like, and he had the financial means. And of course, like, I'm not the type of person who's like, hey man, I need money. But I'm like, look, I'm in this bond and I'll never forget it. I said, hey man, look, this happened. He's like, all right, man, you got to figure that out. Bye. Click, and hung up. I was so mad. And I was like, you mofo, who do you think you are? That pissed me off so bad. 2 days later, I fixed that problem. And I love him for that, right? So sometimes those mentors or those people that you really respect and who see your potential aren't going to always rub you the right way. And many times they won't. But what can happen, what does happen many times with my clients, it's hard to step away sometimes from some people that you have in your life. It's really hard because good or bad, or however you want to, kind of label that, they've been there. They might not have been supportive, but they've been there. So it's like breaking up with a best friend or a close friend. So it's hard to let go of. But, through challenging the way people think, not telling them again, but challenging the way people see the world, it gets them to expand. In many cases, who they really need, not necessarily who they want, is right in front of them. So they start recognizing that this person in my life isn't really helping me. But this person really is. They're giving me that medicine I don't necessarily want to take, but in a long term, it helps me feel better. So that's what happens. People start stretching.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, that can be challenging to assess and realize that some people probably aren't good for you. I'm sure in a lot of cases, some people's family members aren't even good for them. And that I can imagine is incredibly difficult to deal with. But crabs in a bucket, man. If you want to get out, you got to let go of the people who are holding you back.
Amen. It's tough. Mm-hmm. And that person might have the title of mom or dad. The title I had, it was a very tough one, was my mom. I let people know sometimes you have to love them from afar, because who you want them to be, who you need, or who you think they are, or even who you remember them to be, might not be what you need right now. And that's okay. Again, you can send flowers on their birthday. And I let people know, and I share that with people all the time, not to say woe is me, but to let people know I don't wear a crown on my head. I don't have a perfect life. I don't. I've had to make some really tough decisions. And, just like I let, many people I live to know, and just like I teach my son, I don't interrupt any struggle that promotes growth.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's a question for you. When you're making hard decisions and when you're having hard conversations, these are things that people don't like to do. These are things that people avoid like the plague.
Yep.
How can we get better at making hard decisions and having hard conversations when it's so easy for us to just turn our eye? Like, we know what we want. We know that we have to make that decision or have that conversation to get there, but it's so hard. Do we just have to wait until the pain of not making that decision or the pain of not having that conversation starts to outweigh the pain of doing so? Or are there things that we can do to practice and get better at doing those things? Because the only way we're going to get what we want, and I think a lot of cases, is to do the hard thing and have the hard conversation.
It's and this is a really good question. I think Tony Robbins, first person comes to mind when you made that quote. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. When I was comfortable early on, I was that goofy, fat, ugly kid in life. I was comfortable with that title. I was 5'10" in high school. I didn't really fit in. And I was okay with that, I thought, because I knew to expect that. I was comfortable with that. I didn't necessarily like it. I was comfortable because I knew what to expect. But when I started getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, now it's to the point where if I feel comfortable, I'm like, oh shit, what's about to happen? You know what I mean? Something's up. I know what's about to happen. So now it's like I kind of seek it in a twisted way. And I say that, almost kind of joking, but it's the truth. But I think on the other end of like feeling an uncomfortable feeling, but it's almost acceptance. It's an acceptance with the fact that when you are intentional about your life, you're going to feel that in your stomach. You're going to think that you're crazy. You're like, it's that acceptance of it. But it's turning that vision from that 5 yard to that 50 yard and recognizing that as much as it pains you to play Super Mario on World 1-1 over and over again, it's going to pan out better when you're Mario, level 7-2. Because you've practiced the basics so many times, but it's just having that long-term distance. And that's where that mentor comes in. And the third thing I definitely want to say is when you're around people, and this is such a level up for me, and I found this out, when you're around people who are already doing what you're after, you start recognizing it changes like your threshold, right? Because if you, let's just say you're get ready to run a marathon. I used to be a huge runner before my knees kind of blew out from lifting too much, in my earlier years. I just remember I thought like, oh man, 6.1 miles, a 5K, 10K is so big. It's crazy how far away that is, right? And then I started hanging around ultra marathoners. And then immediately the pain of running 6 miles was nothing. The uncomfort went away because you're with somebody, guys and gals who are running like 90 miles. You're like, what am I complaining about? All of a sudden it dwarfs what you feel. And it really reprograms you to realize like, man, I am being a little baby right now. I got to suck this up. I mean, they were in 6 miles, before 5 o'clock. What am I talking about? But I think those are those three big things. So the big thing is obviously just recognizing, expect the uncomfort, listen to anybody. I don't care how successful they are, and listen to them. They always mention uncomfort. They might not use that language, but they mention that. Number two is definitely like, just look for the acceptance of the fact that there can be a better way than what you're doing. And if someone's done it, I mean, not to be, philosophical here, but if someone's done it, you're not the first person, find out. And a big one for me is something I live in is being around people who've already achieved it. Be around them, suck it up. Yeah, and just listen and just be present.
Yep. I agree with that. And I think that's massively helpful. And also, like, if you do those things, then you will achieve great things in your life. You'll achieve happiness. And I think what a lot of that boils down to is almost like maybe self-respect might be the way to think of it, like understanding that you can do as well as you want to, and you deserve to do as well as you want to. And there may be a hesitancy for people to, you talk about like thinking bigger and playing bigger, and like you can have what you dream of. Why? This is one of the questions that we wanted to ask you is like, why should people think bigger? Why should people play big? Like, why not just stay small and, find your happiness? If your happiness is somewhere a little bit easier to reach, like I would love that.
Yeah, that's such a good question, because I can also see that in you too, in terms of, sure, you could do that. You could, but would you be happy with that? Is that being true to who you are? There are some people, and because there's many styles out there, there's many ways of being. There's some people who are okay. I shouldn't say okay, because that almost sounds kind of judgmental, but their way is to come to know what's to be expected and just to kind of get that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think, even in my early days, it was okay for me just to do the bare minimum or just to get by. But this thing, I would go to sleep and I wasn't watching Iron Man fly in the sky when I'm dreaming. I am Iron Man. So that told me it's like, dude, you got some more in you. And it's going to take work, but no matter what's going to happen, 24 hours is going to be 24 hours to whether you try or you don't try something, right? But for me, it's like, I'd rather have those 24 hours where it sucked, I was annoyed, but anything new you try to achieve, you're going to suck at. You're benching 400 pounds, right? And the first time you do 400 pounds, you can ask anybody who did their max on anything. They're like, oh God, it was ugly. Oh my God. And like, I didn't do it. It was sloppy. It was just so gross. Oh my God. And people are like, well, I didn't touch it. Like, oh no, but it was bad. But I didn't do it. They're like, yes, you did. And then you do it again, it gets easier. And so I'm saying that kind of analogy is like, expect it to suck sometimes. It's not going to be pretty, but as you continue to do it, you'll progress and feel better and you'll get it easier. But this thing is going to be like, thank you. Because it's a different type of sleep that you have when you know that you did what you could versus you did what you thought was enough, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that resonates heavily with me. The words good enough are very, they're kind of hard for me to say.
It's like cussing at your mama, right? It's like cussing at your mama. It's like, that's good enough. Like, what?
Yeah, I'm like, good enough? Like kind of fighting words for me sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. And I think I didn't feel that way. I what you said resonated with me where, I used to do the bare minimum and, throughout school, I didn't love school. I wasn't great at school. I got by and I passed and I did well, but I didn't do it the way I would have now, because now I've found something that I'm truly passionate about, that I want to excel in, that has quite literally changed my life. Like it has shown me what I'm capable of when I find something that I love, that I'm passionate about, and I want to continue to improve upon, and good enough does not exist. And so I thought, well, if I can feel that way about this one thing, then why can't I feel that way about everything, and just apply the same strategies and the same frameworks in order to get as far as I want to go, because good enough doesn't exist. And this is where I feel like we get into this dangerous or potentially dangerous spot of, well, if good enough doesn't exist, then I just want more and more and more and more and more. And we have to remind ourselves, like you are, that happiness is the root that we're searching for, not necessarily more of one specific thing. So like, is what we're doing truly going to help make us happy?
Right. And that's important to ask yourself. You got to check that temperature often, because it's easy to kind of get caught up in that. I wouldn't say necessarily a routine, but it's easy to get caught up in that habit of doing more, right? Because it's never enough for us. As fast as somebody Roger Bannister runs a mile, as fast as ever. No one thought it could be possible. That's not good enough. Now we got to do more. Now we got to do more. And I got to do more. I'm like, if you're content with doing that, then that's okay. If that makes you happy, go for it. But if it doesn't, that's another conversation.
Yeah. Do you think that's why some people feel like stuck or they feel unhappy or unfulfilled is because they're chasing more of one thing that may be not aligned with their happiness, like more money or a faster mile time or whatever it may be. And they've kind of lost sight of whether or not that's actually what's going to make them happy. Is that why people feel stuck, do you think?
What you just said is a big reason why I love the quote. Most people do what's expected of them versus what they want. If you're expected, I don't know if you watch like Netflix Squid Games. I'm not going to ruin it for anybody.
Just started that last night.
Okay, dude. It's such a
I got to watch it.
It's such a legit series. There's one character in there, and it just really clicked with me because I think it's so psychological in this show, and many others, but this one's really fresh in my head. Just finished watching it last week. And there's one character who was expected to do so well, but that's not what he wanted. He was expected to achieve so much because of his education, expected to achieve so much because of his accolades. And I think people get caught up into a role. So many people get caught up in a role. I mean, I know I've been there. I mentioned about, chasing money. That was a role I thought I had to, be in, and I didn't need to be in that. So that can definitely cause people to be stuck because you start believing that's who you are. No, that's what you're doing. That's not who you are. And being stuck can kind of go back what you were talking about with like the people you surround yourself, your circle. Because sometimes you doing a particular thing makes some people look even better and they don't want you to leave. Or maybe they like you being there because it makes them feel comfortable. So you could be fulfilling someone else's needs when you're not happy. Therefore, you can wind up stuck. And then another reason is I think some people, and I know this to be true for these years, last 8 years of coaching people is, and I can't tell you how many athletes I've talked to and coached about this. They don't recognize when they're full. Full can mean that you've achieved what you wanted to achieve. Maybe you didn't get that gold. Maybe you didn't get that Oscar. Maybe you didn't get that Olympic, medal, whatever ranking. But once this thing says I'm good, it's to no one, Kenny Rogers, no one to hold them and no one to fold them. And once you're full, fold them, and that's okay. Those are the big three things I can see that gets people stuck.
I can definitely see that, and I can see that happening. But I can see it's easy to lose sight of those things and continue to want more. You mentioned, while you were talking about the people in your circle and potentially having you feel a little bit stuck, I couldn't help but think of, you mentioned that they might want you there because it makes them feel comfortable. And if you're in a circle that you're outgrowing, then that's not like, they're not going to feel comfortable. And I think, to be able to recognize when that's happening can be difficult because obviously it's very emotional and logic may kind of flee the scene. But if you're outgrowing your people, we see this a lot in when people start a new fitness journey, health and fitness journey.
Yep.
If you're with your friends and they're not necessarily healthy or fit people, and I'm, saying this very lightly, when you start making fit and healthy decisions and acting like a fit and healthy person, they're probably not going to like it. And they're probably going to give you stuff like, oh, it's, come on, it's just one drink. It's just one bite. It's just one this, it's just one that. Because when you do that and when you agree to partake in whatever it is that they're encouraging you to partake in that may not align with who you want to be, it makes them feel better because you're progressing, you're chasing what you want. And that might not feel too good for them if they're not ready to do the same.
Right on.
Yeah. So that's going to be challenging for a lot of people. And I think we've seen it physically. We've seen it in health and fitness. We've seen it financially. We've seen it, especially as entrepreneurs. We are, we're working hard towards what we want. We're surrounding ourselves with people who have achieved what we want to achieve so that, we can have greater happiness for ourselves. And it can just be hard to outgrow those people. And it can be hard to feel stuck between wanting to maintain those relationships and doing what is going to make you truly happy.
Yeah. It's one of those things, I'm a big fan of, talking to the other self. I'll take a walk, and some people might be like, so why do you take a walk every day? It's not necessarily the walk, but that's my meditation. I can be with me.
Yep.
And, I was stuck for 10 years. For 10 years of my life, I was a bartender. Nothing wrong with that profession whatsoever. I didn't want to do it. But the people saw me, my clients, the patrons there saw me in a particular vein, and they couldn't see it anyplace else. Well, why would you leave? Why would you go? Why would you do this? And I just remember it was a big, awakening for me one day. And I realized it was what you said. It's like, that's not what I want to do. I'm a huge believer. And I'll ask people this: what do you want? And that question works in relationships, that works with your profession, that works with money, that works with every decision in your life. And I ask people, what do you want? What's your happy? Because I think many times we forget to ask that question. And to not ask it from a place of judgment, or who am I going to hurt, but ask, what do you want? There's nothing wrong in this life for wanting more. When people say, look, I want to be healthy, you want to be fit, and you got a bunch of friends in your cadre who are, all saying the same thing, ask her, well, it's just one day. You don't have to, you can just skip, or you can have that drink. It's like, for me, you told me a lot with that statement. I just told you what was important to me. I just told you that.
And you told me it didn't matter.
Words mean nothing to me. I've had so many people in my life early on who told me they love me. Their actions did not show it.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't love that I needed or how I defined it. And it was a very hard lesson for me to learn, and talk is cheap. Mm-hmm. But I'm a big fan. You got to check in. You have to check in.
You do. You have to be able to communicate with yourself. And I think that's something that I've certainly been working on for a long time, with a little bit of help, which I think everybody could probably use from time to time. Mm-hmm. But I think getting really clear on those questions of of what do you want and what makes you happy, I think that can give you a pretty significant level of confidence to go do that thing and make it really important to you and understand, talk it through. And you talk about finding your confidence and your superpower. Is that how we do that?
That's one of the ways. Smart, capable people. It's what you even just said. And I think it's funny. You'll talk with someone who's smart and capable. And I will sit there, for typically my session is about an hour long, sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little shorter. And I might talk for a total of 45 seconds. Total. And they're like, I already know what to do, didn't I? And I'm like, yeah. Sometimes you need to hear it. You ever thought something really silly, like, oh my God, this is going to happen. And you say it out loud, you're like, what are the odds of Pegasus being real? What am I talking about, thinking about, right? You know what I mean? Because these thoughts are sort of distracting, bring them out of reality. But it's the same thing with smart people. We hear ourselves talking and you're like, wait, what? What do you mean I'm weak? I was working with a guy and he's telling me he quit. I don't know, he drank alcohol for 10 plus years, whatever label you want to give him, 10 plus years, several times a week, and went cold turkey just like that. And now you're telling me that you can't tweak your resume and you can't find a new job. I'm like, you just did something that typically takes people years to go through. And now you're telling me you can't work out a word, jump on Fiverr or Upwork and find someone. That's what you're telling me. It's like, oh, yeah, I guess I can.
Okay. I see where you're going with this, because this is the superpower thing. And now this resonates with me because I have a very addictive personality.
Yep.
And I, got into a lot of trouble when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And I went through a similar thing, a lot of things that were very addictive. I just decided I didn't want to do anymore and I was done doing it. And that was it. And I never cold turkey. And I realized that was weird. Right. Given some of the things I was doing, I realized that was really weird. And then I realized, well, shit, if that's just how my addictive personality works, that I either do things 110% or I don't do them at all, then I could probably capitalize on that. I have to be really careful of it.
Right.
But I can probably capitalize on it. And so, yeah, now I know in my fitness and obviously my business that I'm building, I either am 110% in or I'm zero or I'm not doing it at all. And for the things in my business that I'm like, hey, I'm not 110% about that. I'll just hire it out to someone who is. And so being able to pay attention to the things that I know I like, that I know I can be 100%, 10% in on. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And that's just how I operate. So it's really interesting that you said that, because that was a really defining moment for me in my life that I experienced when I was young. I didn't think it through until I was older, but now it's like you said, yeah, it is a superpower, and it could definitely be used against me. You know, drugs and alcohol probably could easily be used against me.
Right.
But if I can divert my attention or direct my attention rather in sort of placing that quote unquote superpower around things that are going to help get me to where I want to be. Well, yeah, I just need to be able to control it. It's the Joe Rogan ADHD thing. Like, you know, his mental illness is his superpower. He's just fascinated by people, and it's gotten him to where he wants to go because he's been able to control it. Is there a way that we learn to control these things, or is it trial and error? Is this what you help people do? Like, how do we optimize that potentially really dangerous road?
Dude, I'm cracking up. I'm not laughing at you, probably because I so get it. But it's the awareness, right? Once you become aware that whatever it is, right? I don't care. Everybody's got their thing, right? Like I used to be completely obsessed with computers. I'm a nerd. I always let people know I'm a nerd with muscles. That's it. I'm a nerd. I'm not the guy who's like, oh, let's go clubbing. I'm like, so how fast is your DDR RAM? Oh man, look, we could do this. We could overclock it. I'm like, oh, I geek out on stuff like that, right? But that same focus is the same thing you need to be successful in your business, to have a strategy, right? To have a structure, to be lit up by it. So if it's not a hell no, get if it's somebody else that says a hell yes for them, right? It's literally that awareness, and then also realizing the same strategy that might not be getting you what you want is the same exact strategy. I know that I'm very structured. And that structure sounds like, well, that could be terrible. Yeah, if you're not doing what you want to do. But if it is, use that same structures. How is this any different from going to the gym? Well, what do you mean? So you need to get up at a certain time. You need to make sure that you're eating. You make sure you get enough sleep. So what's any different about what you're doing now? You're just getting a better result here. And you're like, oh. And then you kind of fill in the gaps with the breadcrumbs of common, I wouldn't say common sense, but giving people those epiphanies about, so tell me what makes this more challenging than what you did here. So you mean to tell me you would be the first person at, the liquor store to get things. So you recognize that you know what time things open up. You know how to plan to get there 30 minutes early to make sure you be in and out. You knew to count the money to make sure you had exact change. So what's different about going to a trade show right now? You look, you find out what times it opens, you find out who you need to meet. There's no difference here. It's just a different exchange. But like when people start looking at it like that, your problem is your solution. All of a sudden it's like, oh man, you're not, I'm not even a big fan of using words like this. I don't use these words, but let's just say, you have a dependency. I think it's a more positive way of putting things. I mean, well, be dependent on your success then. Just transfer it. That's all it is. I had a horrible temper. Like if you looked me in the eyes, I'm like, oh, it's going down, And of course, I used to call it the Hulk side of me. And now it's like, it's all energy to me. So the same energy that gets me ready to fight could be the same energy that gets me engaged. Dude, tell me about this. Oh my God. If you're looking at someone's eyes, that means you can see what they're wearing. That means you can see, just some curiosity about, dude, I love your watch. Where'd you get that? Like, it's the same thing. So many skill sets transfer over, but you don't see it because you think it's a problem. Most of the time, they're not problems. They're not.
Mm-hmm. It's a solution if you apply it to the right process or the right application. Yep.
I call it go with the resistance.
Yep. And I think for me personally, like I learned a lot more about how I could use my addictive personality in that 0 or 110%, stop or fast type of person that I am. I learned a lot more about how I could use that to my advantage once I found something that I was actually passionate about, that I would live and die for. And I started noticing the same behaviors were that I was, applying towards this thing that I was really passionate about. At first it was snowboarding. Now it's health and fitness. And it was the same behaviors that I was applying negatively towards things that weren't serving me. And I think that, finding something I was passionate about was certainly a catalyst. How important do you think that is, that finding something that you're passionate about part in creating success and happiness for most people? Is that, can we live a healthy, successful, happy life without actually ever finding our passion? Because I worry that, and I don't know if this is true, but I worry that it might not be that uncommon to not really find what you're truly passionate about.
Yeah, it's a good question, because not everybody's going to find their passion. I'm not trying to be negative here, but not everybody is, right?
Yeah.
It could be, financial reasons. It could be geography reasons. If you live where it's, 110 degrees, you might not find out that you have a passion for snowboarding or, water, those things. But there's many reasons why you will not. I think the big thing for me, how I approach things is, if you're going to be living a life, well, let's just say you need to provide. You need to make sure you have certain income to make ends meet. It's important that if you're going to work, you need to, at the very least, practice having more fun. And it's a simple equation. I'm always saying more work equals more fun, more curiosity, because you might not find your passion, but that's not to deflate you, because you might not find your passion, but you can definitely find things that excite you. Even early on, you'll see somebody, myself included, where you might be working on a ministry as a bartender. I despised it. I remember literally throwing a hissy fit in the car. But my big thing was geeking out when I would get off. And that was a balance that kept me from blowing up many times, right? Because you get tired of people trying to fight you, or just people saying some of the rudest things you could ever imagine in your life. You get, you feel diminished at the very least. But I would get excited with the fact that, I can't wait to buy this new case, or I can't wait to do X, or I can't wait to play this video game. Those things, it's important to find the things that you do enjoy. That's kind of what I'm saying. Find those things you enjoy, even if you don't find your passion, because you can start enjoying something and that can just kind of, take the edge off of life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I used to do that. Travis and I met in school in Vermont at Champlain College. And honestly, I went there because I could go snowboarding. It wasn't really for the academics. It was just where I could go snowboarding the most. And that got me through a pretty good amount of time where I also hated my job. It paid a lot of money, but I hated my job. And I was, working for the weekends, because I could go snowboarding on the weekends. I could go maybe take a day off every now and then during the week. I go and that, kept me sane. It was exactly what I needed at the time. It was my happy place for sure. But it wasn't something that I wanted to pursue as a career. I was afraid. I was like, this is the thing I like. I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to make a career out of, snowboarding. I don't know if I want to be in the snowboard industry. I was like, this is the only thing I have that I am certain brings me pure happiness. And I didn't want to ruin it. So I didn't. So I said, okay, we're going to wait for something else. And now I found that.
I remember I wanted to, I loved art. I still love to draw. And I remember I was like, oh my God, I want to go to school for animation. I was so excited. And I just had that same exact moment. It's like, I enjoy this, but do I want to do it for a living? And I think so many people kind of get caught up in the rhetoric of, if you do it, you need to get paid for it. Yes, that's true. But when things have deadlines, things have expectation, things start having storyboard meetings, it's like, do I really want to take something I love and maybe get paid for it? Maybe in a kind of more of a commercial, vein, not all the time. And then sometimes, when you find your passion and you're looking for your passion, but along the way you find your enjoyment, many, many times, and I let people know this, it's not about necessarily, well, this isn't my passion. Many times it's just getting your energy up, because when you're like, man, I feel like, I got to release, you hear things differently. When you're more energized, you're more like, oh, I'm so excited for the weekend. I'm about to go snowboard. I can do this. You're going to jump into those conversations, right? Like, hey man, what's going on? And they could be like, man, I like your attitude. Like, tell me about you. Oh, I do this. Like, what? Dude, give me your resume, or let's link up on LinkedIn. You just don't know. So many times I let people know, because that's how I got to my happy here. It was getting my energy up, because, you're going to be smiling more. If you're doing anything that lights you up, it's really hard for you, if you enjoy fishing, I love to go fishing, to be sitting out there fishing and you're like looking around begrudgingly. No, you're going to be excited. You're going to be waving to people like Forrest Gump did, doing like this. And people are like, man, I like that. That's attractive to people.
Yeah. Yeah. The way I think of it is like, you're talking about filling your own cup up. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yep.
So yeah, if you fill up your own cup, you do things that you're passionate about, you do things that make you happy, then you're going to be able to provide more for the people around you, and you're going to find more opportunities. But I think this might actually, I'm guessing here, but this might lead into a little bit of your Happy Meal diet prescription.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really curious to learn about that, whether it's like a lifestyle thing or nutrition thing. I'm very interested in it. Can you explain to us a little bit about what the Happy Meal diet is?
Yeah, it's what you say. It's more of a lifestyle. You know,
okay, that's what I had a feeling. Yeah,
it's I
like it.
Happy Meals is nutrition. Don't get me wrong, right? You want to make sure that you're eating when you get up. You want to make sure that you're moving your body. Do you have to? No, but it's definitely working your best interest. You know, especially when you start getting over your 30s. You know, and it's not that you're getting older, but your body starts functioning differently. But it's about a lifestyle of not what's wrong, but what can I do? You know, what are my options here? You know, and I'm a big fan of with the Happy Meal lifestyle, let people know it's about having oops thinking. Options, opportunities, possibilities, and solutions. When you have oops thinking, life becomes expansive. Bad food can make you feel bad. You know, I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with picking up a double cheeseburger, and I can't lie to you and say I don't like ribs and things like that. But if you eat that on a regular basis, I can promise you, you're not going to go out on a jet ski right after you have a double cheeseburger with bacon. You're going to want to lay right on that couch. You're going there's going to be no oomph there. So with the Happy Meal lifestyle, it's about making sure we're eating proper nutrition, eating and drinking water when we need to, because there's so many of us who are not getting enough water. And just be really in tune with what you're feeling. You know, everybody in the Happy Meals program, I meet with them regularly. You know, hey, talk to me, what's going on? You know, many times, you know, some of us can become, you know, there's so much research supports that the stomach, you know, is a second brain. And you're going to be like, well, you know, I know to eat better. I had a really tough day at work, and all of a sudden I just want to grab some Pringles. And then we talk to people about, you know, well, what's going on is this and this. And then people are like, oh, so what can I do? I'm like, well, you know, when's the last time you had some fun? I cannot tell you how many people look at you like they have 6 heads when you ask them that. And then you'll say, I always say is, you know, these 3 big rules. It can't involve buying or spending, can't involve food, alcohol, or drugs, and it only can involve yourself. And then when I talk to people, they're like, wait, what? I'm like, well, why? Why not? You know, we can't buy while we ain't buying or spending. Capital One doesn't need any more money from you. Okay. So be aware of that. Food, alcohol, you know what happens when you have one too many glasses of Cabernet or tequila. Things get a little cloudy, you get it on your phone, you start sending texts you don't want to send. And it can always involve yourself, no comment there. And you want to make sure it involves yourself because you don't want it dependent on other people. And it's not that people aren't great, we talked about circle, but you want to eliminate as many excuses as possible. I love taking nature walks. I did that right before we got on the call because I despise being on video. No offense to you all. Like, I'm just not the camera guy. But for me, that's a big balance where like, oh my God, oh, I'm gonna look like this and my forehead. And I get in my head, but when I go do the thing and taking a walk and I'm seeing like these giant banana spiders, anybody seen a banana spider? Mm-hmm. Then no joke. I'm not even scared of spiders, but I'm telling you what, it's gnarly looking. It'll wake you up because you're like, nothing that big is nice. But it kind of woke me up, and it's not dependent on somebody. But with the Happy Meals, it's about that awareness. It's the education and the really execution of losing weight and having fun. You don't need to deprive yourself. I tell people all the time, you need to have a cheat meal. Like, if that's what you want, have something good to eat.
And this resonates very well with me because I think that, you know, lately we've been talking about there's a problem in, you know, in healthcare, the health and fitness industry, where people are very focused on the external appearance, and it's almost like they're trying to fix that before they fix what's inside them. And that's not the way it works. It's health and fitness, not fitness and health. So health always comes first. And what you're talking about are ways to like really simply improve your health just by paying attention to what your body wants, needs, what it's telling you, and how you speak to it and treat it. So if you do all these things, if you're following the, you know, your Happy Meal diet, you're paying attention to when you're feeling stressed and you go for a nature walk and you know it makes you feel better. Well, guess what? That's something that is good for you. That's something that you should keep on doing. And it's going to help improve your life from the inside out. we focus on healing and fixing what's inside, well, guess what? The outside tends to look pretty good. But you can ask my friend Jerry. You can cook a chicken pot pie and make it look real good on the outside. It can be completely uncooked on the inside.
Right.
You can get 17 people food poisoning. We're not speaking from experience here, but you got to take care of what's on the inside first.
Don't eat chicken pot pie from Jerry. Don't do it.
I know this is a very specific analogy, but yeah, man, I really like the approach. It's you know what it is it's quite literally the change that I think the industry needs, like the health and fitness industry specifically. And I think it's a change that a lot of people need in their lives, are to start focusing more on what's inside, what your body is telling you, on internal health, on internal happiness, on mental health. And when it comes down to it, when you're asking these questions to try to find what your happiness is, of, what is that, what changes that going to make in your life, and how is that going to lead to true happiness? I think most of what we want really does, it starts inside. And so if you focus on that, you take care of yourself. And I love the concept of the Happy Meal diet. You're going to get to where you want to be. You just got to be a little bit relentless in your pursuit.
Amen. I remember back, back in the fitness modeling days. I mean, it was, don't get me wrong, I had great experiences. Other than some things that happened when I was younger, for myself, and I can't speak for anybody else, because I don't wear, their clothes. I was not as happy during those times as those pictures might have portrayed. A 6-pack, 8-pack, that does not mean, I love when people say, like, I want a 6-pack. And it's like, do you really think that's going to give you a reason to smile every day?
Nah, dude. If
anything, it made me more like, oh my God, I can't do this. I got to watch my macros. I got to do this. Oh my God, this is that link. I became so neurotic. It really got in my head. And a lot of guys won't admit this. Like literally, I would be on a shoot. And I remember my first cover try, and I'll never forget, right after, one of the guys on set said, man, you're looking a little thick. Shut me down for 2 weeks. I was in my head like, oh my God. Oh my God. I became so neurotic, and I'm not exaggerating it, but that was one of the big reasons why I said after 3 years, I can't do this. Mm-hmm. And I recognize that at the end of the day, and it's something that I live by, because I've mentioned, I'm not a big fan of being on the camera. I'm the quiet guy. I'm the nerd. I'm the neurological guy. It's how attractive are you when the lights are off? I've been around some amazingly attractive people, and, I'm excited. I see people and they talk. It's bleh. I'm like, what in the world is this? You are freaking drop dead gorgeous lady. And then I'm like, and I'm not picking on any one person, but that made me realize that character is more important than anything for me. And it's, well, my insides, I mentioned that, say you're about to have a life altering stroke. The outside looks great, right? I was cut, I was jacked, I was ripped and everything, but you're telling me I'm about to leave this earth, but the outside looks great. That was like, wait, what? Talk about shattering a paradigm. And that really just awakened me on such a big level. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I wasn't managing my stress properly. I wasn't making sure I had I was eating for aesthetics, but I was not eating for health. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It made sure that, I was flush or whatever it may be at that time, but I wasn't making sure I was taking care of my body. And obviously I did what I needed to do. As you mentioned, like, hey, you got to be relentless. And I got everything, gripped my vitals and my labs and everything, but that just woke me up. It's like, what's the point of having a 25-inch bicep if you only live to be 30, 31? What's the benefit? Dude, I had a great time when I was 28. Let me tell you, about 365 times 2. And it's like, So with Happy Meals, it's about like, look, you got, my son's 6. When he's 26, I'm going to be beating him in races. I'm going to be running around, and that's what matters. I want to be here a while. I'm going to be here a while. Yep.
And your priorities changed. And that's,
yes.
As they should. As you grow older, you find out what's important, you realize what's important, and what's important might change. But I think with the Happy Meals approach, it really encourages adaptability and sustainability from my understanding, because
yes,
what is important to you is going to change. What you're willing to sacrifice is probably going to change. It's going to adapt as you grow older, and following one theory or one framework might not always be the answer, but if you're focused on just how you feel, what makes you happy, then that's really all you need to do. And it seems so simple, of course. It seems way too simple.
So simple that you can't believe it'll work, right?
I know, right? It's got to be more complicated than this.
You'll be like the big secret sauce with, Happy Meals is the community. You're not allowed to talk about politics, religion, and those obviously taboo subjects. But when you see someone sharing the group of, I have been doing Happy Meals, and one of my ladies, she lost, 20 pounds this morning, total in September. And October 2nd, she's super stoked, super happy. She's doing great. And, she sends me a message today, or she posted actually and sent me a message that, oh my God, I feel terrible. I had cake today. I had this and I had that. And I responded, so, okay, and it was just cool because everyone's got different backgrounds in there. Everybody, different color, race, religion. I mean, all that stuff like that. But I know when people get to see that what people look like is not what they've been through, it's very encouraging because you recognize that one, that's you have those same thoughts or similar thoughts, but two, you recognize it's like, I can help them. I know what that's like. I don't have a solution, but hey, I know what you're talking about. I totally get that. But three, it's like most of the time we're way too hard on ourselves. It's not that serious. So you have more cake. You had cake today. Great. I'm so excited you have more energy for the next day. You get to work that off. You know what I mean? But it's people coming together. And I'm not trying to sing Kumbaya, but it's like doing a fitness class, right? You're like, I don't know, you do a fitness class and nobody cares what your political views are, what type of car you drive, what your credit score is. When everyone's tired, you're like, I'm so tired. And you're like, me too. And it's like, okay, you don't feel bad anymore. You're like, I can keep going on. I can keep going on. And now all that other silliness is kind of pushed aside. That's what it's about. It's about people getting back to being people and not their perspectives. And that just, it's very encouraging for people.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, once you start to understand this, then you're right. You look at people as I like to think of people as just like good humans. Like I want to be a good human being. And that to me is what a beautiful person is. It's like, maybe they have a beautiful aesthetic appearance. And of course I'm in bodybuilding, so we're always comparing aesthetic appearance, but even recently in the Olympia, at high level bodybuilding at the peak performance, they started incorporating the people's champ because it's, well, one, how they look, but it's also like a good human being on stage.
Yes.
And I think that it's a really cool thing that they've started to incorporate in a very aesthetically driven competition, but just be a good human. That's all it comes down to.
That's what people are really looking for. People are looking for, my belief is people are looking for good, solid people to connect with. Mm-hmm. One of the things I had a pleasure doing was, really quick story. It was, you see, I'm never been a starstruck person, never. I've like, I've seen them, but that doesn't mean anything about me better. I've never done that kind of hierarchical thing. But when I would meet some, celebrities on sets, and I was just amazed at how good they were. Like they were just nice people. And not that I didn't expect it, but there was this one time, it was a couple of times. I remember I met Don Cheadle on set. And I thought he was like, I liked his acting already, but he was so normal. It kind of freaked me out. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And then I saw a few entertainers and like they're really ostentatious. They got these gregarious attitudes. Nothing like that off camera. I'm like, these are just good people whose job is to act this way. I was on set with like Nicki Minaj and Madonna, actually. All an act. Very, very intelligent. Very intelligent. I was like, not that I thought anything less of them, but I just didn't expect that, right? Because everyone kind of has like, oh, they might act like this. Nope. Covering up. Spoke and carried themselves a certain way. And it taught me like being a good person is all that matters. Again, back to what I said, I live by, how attractive are you when the lights are off? Would someone want to talk to you if they couldn't see your face? And that matters more than anything, because that's what you take with you in this world.
Yep. That's beautiful, man. That's some really cool stories that you've got, especially on some people that you're right. I think a lot of us might expect that, some of our celebrities that we look up to may act a certain way, but it's cool to hear that, a lot of them are just good people. And of course, they're talented. They must be intelligent. But yeah, I think being a good person and striving to be a better person is a really great way to end this podcast. So I appreciate your time, man. I mean, this was obviously I really enjoyed this conversation. Yeah, I feel like we could go on forever, man. I like the stuff that you're pushing, especially with Happy Meals and finding happiness, and knowing that you're capable of really great things. So I know I want to follow you. I want to learn more about what you got going on, and I know our listeners will as well. So I want to give you a chance to plug yourself and tell us a little bit more about what you've got going on, where we can find you, and anything else that you have for us, man. The floor is yours.
Thank you for that. I definitely want to say, I love the platform you guys have created. Years ago, people might have ignored something that you guys have created, but now it's like it's necessary, it's needed, and people are begging for it. So thank you for having me. And I definitely want to say, my website, it's whatyourhappi.com, and it's happy with an I, not happy with Y, happy with an I. And people are like, well, why an I? And I let people know why an I, because you matter. But it's big on waking you up. That's what really the I is there for. But it's whatyourhappi.com. You can also see me Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I post every single day. Either I'm doing, giving you some wisdom, giving you some guidance for your day-to-day life. And then sometimes just find ways to make you smile. But another way to get in contact with me is Vernon@whatyourhappi.com is my email. I get back to my emails in no less than 24 hours. And again, it's happy with an I.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. I appreciate it. I'm gonna definitely give you a follow and check out the website. I did not get a chance to do that, but I'm really fascinated in just your frameworks. I think that we definitely have some things that align in terms of how we approach our clients. And so I think it'd be great to continue to connect and stay in touch moving forward. So yeah, I'll reach out to you. But for now, man, this was a great conversation, and I really appreciate you coming on. I know our listeners are going to enjoy it. So to those of you who have tuned in to another episode of the Struggle to Strength podcast, we thank you very much. This is not the last that you'll see of Vernon, I'm sure, but we'll see you all guys next week.